Just a quick note from the good old Bri to the supporters and non-supporters of the Darlie Routier case. I'm going to send this little message out. Maybe we can reach a common ground. This Sunday at around noon time, I plan to do a live on my channel with the cooperation of Rich Prater, Kathy Ramsey, and possibly Pamela Collins. She has not confirmed or anything. If she wants to come on, I'd like to have her on there. So would Rich. The idea is to discuss the case like civil human beings, which I'm very capable of doing. I've proved it in the past. It's important to both sides is very important to listen to if you follow this case. It doesn't matter if you don't like the person that's given the message. It doesn't matter. But this is a very serious cause. There are children involved. There's a family of victims involved. There are legalities involved in this. It's very serious on either side. It's serious for them because they want to save Darlie's life and they believe that she is innocent. It's serious for us because we believe that she's guilty and we see some of the ways that she's been defended over the years. And it's not everyone. The supporter's job, as far as coming out on social media and speaking about Darlie, is to convince non supporters of her undeniable innocence that they feel she has. That doesn't involve little sayings like they're probably 600-pound fat people that live in their parents' basement. That's really not going to convince anybody that Darlie's innocent. It's also not going to convince people that Darlie's innocent when things are put out by several different entities that simply are not true about her innocence. That's annoying and it makes it look like you have something to hide when you lie or when you simply won't adhere to the fact. I've challenged supporters over the years many times to get under my videos if you see somewhere where I've lied or I've got it wrong. And they choose not to. And that's fine with me. I know some of the things that go on. I've been going to jail for harassment and stalking people and uh, showed up at people's houses. And that's been happening to me for for 15 years, ever since the day I left support. These outlandish stories come out about me. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And, just as I was talking to Rich, who is my friend, I consider Rich a friend. But I do not know Rich from Ohio. Rich's goal is to defend Darlie's innocence. When we speak privately, he doesn't waver from that at all. It's him and I discussing a case like adults with no insults, no smart ass comments at each other, none of that. And if people could do that with me, I could debate the case easy. But as soon as someone slips out of line, I don't have to put up that shit. Neither do you. I have yet to meet a supporter, though, that can debate this case with me without becoming rude and insulted, except for Rich Prater. He's the only one. Or tell me how we need to think. Now, Kathy Ramsey wants to come on. She asked to moderate it. And I said, well, she's not going to be able to moderate it. I mean, she can come on. I'd love for her to be there. But she's not going to be able to moderate it. There's no way you can just sit in the middle of a conversation and when you hear something say, nope, you can't do that because then it'll become a discussion between you and whoever you're trying to stop from speaking. But Kathy knows the case pretty well. Uh, I'll be glad to have her on. But, just like when Rich asked me, can Kathy wants to come on, and I've talked to her before. We've fought before. She's not as nasty as some of the other supporters can be that make up stories. Yeah, that people make up stories. I mean, it's pathetic. In order, they want to stop the truth. That's all they want to do, and they know I have it. They continuously say that I lie, and I make up stuff, but nobody makes a video to show it. You could do exactly what I do, and I wouldn't go fuck off or anything. You could take what I'm saying, if you feel like it's wrong, and put it in video form and show where I was wrong. That's what I've been doing for years. You can do that. I'm not going to bite your face off. Not like I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to go out of my way to mess with somebody just because they have a different opinion. But we can keep it in this box right here. Well, I'll fight with you all day long in this box. And that, I get a bad rap. And it started shortly after I left support. Period. There's nothing Mama Darlie and Darlie supporters hate worse than a supporter who has defected. They don't like that. And a lot of these people weren't around when I ran the Free Darlie. And I was just as aggressive in support that I am in non-support. But as soon as I walked away, and I had no intentions of doing a YouTube or speaking on this case, again, after I left, the post is still available where I said, look, I'm not confident in her innocence. I just can't do this. I'm not confident anymore. I just can't do this. It's not fair. So here, I'm going to give this group to David Moffat. And I left. And it wasn't like I just ran to the non-supporters with open arms. No, I didn't go to them either. They saw that I left. But the thing that kept me in, I would tell you the thing that kept me in this case is when I left, supporters couldn't leave it alone. I see what they're posting just because I left. I left quietly. All right. The first thing they see is Gia Leone, who's on my friends list today. We're friends. He just left because Darlie rejected him. He was writing her love letters. And you should see these letters he was writing to her, blah, blah, blah. That's the very first lie. All right. So, of course, I responded to that because I know that I've never spoke to Darlie that way. But they had to give a good reason. Why would this man that was so into support leave support? They had to have a good reason for that. It's embarrassing. So that's where it started. And since then, I've had 3 different men: Darren Gross, Richard Wright, and Rich Prater ask Darlie, had I ever sent her anything like that? And she said no. I even had to show one of the letters that I got from her years ago where it shows Darlie responded to me talking about my wife and our baby. It's like, oh, Darlie, I love you so much. I just want to touch you and brush your hair. My wife and my child would be okay with that. Now, usually if you have the hots for a female, you don't mention your wife and kids. That's usually. Now, when I first saw the case, I have a connection to it, which I'm not going to get into, but I have a connection to it. It's through Lubbock, Texas, and the Western Sizzling. But anyways, that's what got me interested in the case. And as I'm reading it, I'm reading the case, I see this affidavit Darren put up. I'm like, well, why the fuck are they not looking at this guy with this affidavit, where he was trying to do these insurance scams? So that's why I felt like she was innocent. And it was like the answer was right there in that affidavit that Darren wrote. So I was in the groups, and I thought she was innocent based on Darren and Darren's shadiness, which is what they want. That's why that whole thing was organized. The whole affidavit thing, with Robbie Jean Key, Charles Sanford, Darren, with all of them around the same time. That now I understand that for exactly what it was. It is a ploy. Yes, there was an insurance scam done on the car that Darlie knew all about. So they get together and say, well, maybe Darren, if you put out this affidavit that said that you asked multiple people, about this robbery at your house, maybe that will cast enough doubt for Darlie that if we get this new trial that we're waiting on because of the transcript fiasco, which was going on at the same time, maybe we can cast enough reasonable doubt in people's heads to get her out of there. All right, by this affidavit thing, by this thing with Darren. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Now, if you read through it now, there are a couple things on there that are true. I do believe she asked him for a separation that night. But this multiple people thing, and I've asked multiple people to break in my house, that makes no sense whatsoever now. Now, if you think about it. Okay, and the people are saying, Darren might have been into some shit with these people, and they just took it upon themselves to break into that house. That's bullshit. Think about it. There was no moving van outside found in the area. What were they going to steal? If they just overheard Darren speaking about my possible insurance scam on his house, they sure came unprepared for that. And what would they take at 2:30 in the morning? Insurance scam. What would they take from the house? Well, they just back a U-Haul up to the garage and take the leather sofas, take the drapes down. Those are the most expensive things downstairs. Well, really, what would they take if that was going to be an insurance scam that was happened on June 6, 1996? What would they take? So now that I know that whole scam was just a little ploy, it was theatrics. That affidavit is a script for theatrics to make people think Darren might have sent some people there. You notice he's never named anyone on that affidavit. Darren might have sent somebody on there. But that's where I felt she was innocent. And I'm going through the story again. People always ask me, why did you change sides? And I said, I left mainly because of Darren's Facebook page. And Darren put up a Facebook page when I was running the free Darlie group, not groups. There's two of them. There's one that's private and then one that's public. I ran the public one. So I see that Darren put up this page, and of course I go look at it. And it shows him with a new F-150 truck, a nice blue Harley Davidson. And it says absolutely nothing about Darlie, about his boys, none of it. So I go and I message Mama Darlie, who usually messages right back, because I had talked to her plenty of times. She'll swear up and down that's a lie, but I know better. And I messaged Mama Darlie, and I said, you see this Facebook page that Darren put up? And she goes, no, what's going on with it? I said, well, it doesn't mention anything about finding the killer or his innocent wife or his kids, being murdered. And she went over and took a look at it, and she was pissed when she come back. She said, he's always, he's always doing something stupid. She said something about him talking too much. But the main thing is she said, he's shady. I've always thought he had something to do with this. That's what Mama Darlie told me. And I said, yeah, that's why I support her innocence. Because with that affidavit and these insurance scams, blah, 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 we had we talked about it. And when one of the things she said when she saw that Facebook page, I'm calling Cooper right now. I'm thinking, okay, why would you do that even why would you call Cooper about his Facebook page? That doesn't mention anything. What are you going to say? What's he going to do? File a motion to have Facebook take down his page? But she did say that. And A day or so later, we're in conversation on the private free Darlie group. But that's where all the main non-supporters were. Mama Darlie was a member of that. She watched that one. But we were talking about why we thought that Darlie was innocent, blah blah blah. And I said, well, quite frankly, I think she's innocent because I think Darren. It was all Darren. I didn't say he killed the kids. Because I never thought that. But I think that Darren, led somebody there. And the whole group of people started leaving comments and they're jumping on me. Like, you know, you don't accuse Darren of that. This is years ago. You don't accuse Darren. Who do you think you are? I can't believe you're talking about him like that. Was getting comments like that. Darren loved those kids, blah blah blah. Because back then there was no accusing Darren. There was none. You couldn't like they do now. I found out about things that I didn't know about back then. Darlie said, "See, that's a lie. She knew all about that Jaguar being taken." But at any rate, when they started jumping on me, I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" I said, "I'm not the only one here that thinks Darren had something to do with that." You know, and they were like, "Nah, blah blah blah." I said, "Mama Darlie thinks the same thing. So jump on her too. If you're gonna jump on her too." And Mama Darlie popped in there and she said, "I most certainly did not. He loved those babies. He would never lead it." And she was just defending Darren to a T. I said, "Oh, yes, you did." I said, "2 days ago, you told me in the messages." "I most certainly did not," she said. And she called me a bag of crap as a supporter. Called me a bag of crap. So this is when I learned to start saving things. From that day, I took the message from Mama Darlie and myself, and I put it in a group right where everybody got to see that she told a lie because it clearly showed, that what she said. But that's what started it. I was wondering why would she lie in private or in public and say something else in private? And there was several other instances. That's the main reason I said, something ain't right here. Something ain't right here. I cannot support this anymore. It was because of that, actually. And then Mama Darlie got all pissed off because when I left, I didn't respond to them. They were leaving shit all over Facebook. I was getting shitty messages, and I didn't respond to them. I wasn't aggressive at all back then. And but when Mama Darlie, we were arguing in emails back and forth, and she posted in one of those free Darlie groups that she thought 85J was my print, and she wanted my print to compare it, blah blah blah. And I thought that was rude. No, oh no, 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 no! You don't do that. That's where she created someone that I've got a passion for the boys. I've got a passion for the truth, but I've also got a passion for proving Mama Darlie wrong about myself and about who did this. You don't accuse someone of killing two kids like that. You don't even joke about it. I don't care if it was fucking sarcasm or not. You don't do that. That public accusation is why that I dig into this case so much and learn it so much that I'll knock on any door. I went on Bond Street and knocked on every one of them fucking doors over there. I want to know the truth. I want to be sure Mama Darlie knows it too, because she must be confused about whose print 85J actually is. So I'm helping. I'm helping. I want no confusion about that. So when Kathy and Rich and Pamela, if she's available, and myself do this live, the goal is to stop all this bullshit. There's no reason for people to be leaving big ass Facebook posts and telling their friends that somebody is stalking them, harassing them, and doing anything they can to hurt her family, and that they're going to the police and all that. That's bullshit. That right there would draw anger in anyone. That would. And I'm speaking specifically about Danelle's post on her Facebook. It's still there. It's, oh my God, my Facebook post is private. No, it's not. You can't post anything on Facebook that I won't know about, except for your little groups that you have. But she puts this big post on there about how I'm harassing, stalking. She's telling her friends and family this. But the truth of the matter is, I've got videos showing that she would call my house over and over again, wouldn't leave me alone. All right, is that how you want to support Darlie Lynn? By making up stories like that? All right, and before we even get into this any further, I want to let you know, Sully is a fucking liar, and I knew from day one, speaking to her, with the very first comment that she left in Rich Prater's chat was, "Oh, well, my name, I have a background in criminology, blah blah blah," and she said I was a criminal. I was a I was an expert in a criminal case that involved a gunshot wound to the head. That she said that she sat as an expert. I was trying to figure out who she was in the chat. This happened in Rich's chat, and I said, "Wow, that's interesting." And I really did think it was interesting. I said, "Wow, that's interesting. What case was that?" Well, I really can't get into that. I said, "Well, yeah, but you just did. You just got into that. You just put yourself out there as an expert in a case." And she goes, "Well, there was a gag order on it." I said, "Well, you've already violated that because that means you can't even say that you sat as an expert in that case." And I also told her, I said, the gag orders don't stick on cases that are closed. They don't. You can talk about them after they're closed. But anyways, I knew she was a fucking liar right then and there. First of all, she's too young to be an expert, and who the fuck is going to pay her to sit on the stand and defend somebody? Who's going to pay her? She's ignorant. That girl is ignorant. And so I told Rich behind the scenes, I said, you got to watch that one, buddy. I said, I think she's going to hurt your support camp. And I'm all for him supporting Darlie. I'm all for it. I want it needs to be done properly. I have no problem with that because I sure don't want to have a woman die on death row if she didn't commit the crime. It's the supporter's job. If you can't convince me, how are you going to convince the courts? You guys keep talking about how I'm uneducated, I ain't got no money, I'm just a hillbilly, dumbass redneck. If you can't convince me, how are you going to convince them? I know this case back and forth. I take pride in knowing this case. And if I don't know it, I know the people that I can ask, and I will know it. I take pride in putting up the facts there, and I challenge any supporter to get under my videos. And if you see anything that's wrong, post it there. Let's talk about it. You might be able to convince me if you'd stop with the insults and the lies and the bullshit. You know, and quite frankly, I'll put it like this. And I don't want to be rude. You think this is rude? I don't care. One of the things that we're not allowed to discuss, that Rich Prater made it perfectly clear, he didn't want to discuss anything about Dennis Stahl. And now, okay, that's your ground rule. That's fine. We won't talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it there, but I will talk about it right now. All right. They don't want to touch that subject. None of them. And you saw Danelle blow up when I confronted her with that. So that's the only thing we're not allowed to talk about it, but I'll talk about it right now. Mama Darlie had time to go to the Kaufman Police Department and tell them that I was harassing her and stalking her, and I wouldn't leave her alone, to the point where one of those police officers called me on the phone. And he didn't understand the whole story. At first, he thought I was a Darlie supporter for some reason. I don't know. He was Darlie Routier or what? The blue hell? I wish I still had that video. But anyways, he was telling me, well, she don't want you calling her. She don't want you messaging her. So you need to stop. And I said, I don't give a fuck what she wants, dude. Because Mama Darlie was out there saying shit to me. You don't say somebody's fingerprint was left at a crime scene like that where two kids are. No, you don't do that and think that you can just slide and everything will be all hunky dory after that. No, no. But she had time to do that. She had time to sit down with those police. She was sitting right there with them when they called me. And when I told him to fuck off and hung up on it, I say what I want I'm allowed to say what I want. And you're not doing this to me. You can shut your comments off. You can block me from every one of your groups. You can refuse to talk to me and talk about me behind my back. But what's not going to happen to me in this case is this. You're not doing that to me. You're not going to use the police to do that either. They laughed at her. But she had time to go and do that, right? But she didn't have time to go to the Altoona police and tell them that this man was hurting her daughter. She didn't have time for that. That's where it started at, folks. So since I can't say that on this live, which is fine, there's some ground rules. I'm not going to go on there. I'm going to keep in mind that Rich and Kathy, that these people in the family are their friends. And I don't want to hear people talk shit about my friends. I wouldn't put up with it. There's some things that are case related that I'll speak about. But the goal in this live is to have a discussion about the Darlie Routier case without getting too personal. Without, it doesn't have to be personal. If you don't have the answer, you don't have the answer. But you can't be saying things that aren't true, that aren't true. Like Darlie lost 50% of her blood. That's not true. You can't be doing that. And if you do that, I'm here for the boys. I'm here. And when he asked me, he goes, "Well, what do you think about Kathy Ramsey coming on?" I said, "I got no problem with her coming on. She can't moderate. Well, she'll be a part of the discussion." I said, Rich, but you better tell her to have lunch and bring a snack, because I'm not putting up with any of that stuff that she normally does on Rich's panel. No, you can't think like this. You got to do this. You can't look at it. She has a bad habit of telling people how they should think or how they can't think something. She does it constantly. And I'm not having that over her. I really don't believe that. I know that Kathy knows her and that she stayed attached to it over the years because of the fame of the case. But I don't think Kathy's qualified to give us anything personal about Darlie. I don't. And Rich keeps saying, I know Darlie. I know. No, you don't. You know inmate, whatever her number is. F9336 or whatever. You know that inmate. You don't know Darlie. Darlie's got nothing but time to figure out how she can bamboozle. Nothing but time. Nothing. That's all she has to do is make people think she didn't do that. They do things like, I tell Rich this. They do things like, she'll tell Rich something and say, don't tell nobody, but she hopes he does. Now, and I'm going to clear up some other things. I've been speaking to Rich, and he told me about these accusations that Sully is putting out. That him and I are good friends, and we've known each other for in the past from Ohio, and that we're working together to hurt this case. I have never met Rich Prater. I didn't know him at all until he started doing his YouTube. And when there's a Darlie's Innocent YouTube, everybody knows I'm there, don't we, Tracy? Don't we? The truth. We know that. That's why you can tell somebody, hey, just make a Darlie video and he'll be there. Yeah, we know all about that. But anyways, I can talk to Rich about this case and not get in a fucking argument. Ever. Never. We have never gotten in an argument about this case. Never. And that's the way it should be done everywhere. And if people don't like that Rich and I talk, that's really their fucking problem. What's that got to do with Darlie's innocence? This man believes with his life that Darlie is innocent of this crime. It shouldn't make any fucking difference to any of you who he talks to. None of you. Because he is all about Darlie being innocent. I mean, how petty is that? This man is spending thousands of dollars to go back and forth and see Darlie. He's writing things up for Darlie's defense. He's putting his ass on the line with his name on it. Rich Prater. I respect that about him. His channel. It doesn't have a like DJ Sky's the Limit or Jamie or Annie Oakley. I am fucking Rich Prater, and I think Darlie's innocent. That's how you do it. That's one of the things I like about him. Puts his name on it. He can take it if I call him out on something. I don't get called out by supporters very much at all. Rich is, he's said a couple things, but I've got 2,500 fucking Darlie videos, and not one supporter has been up in there and say, "Well, you're wrong here. You're lying about this." I'd love to do that. Instead of talking about me behind my back, like these white trash women do and have been doing for years. Oh, that guy right here. And Sully can't deny it because she talked to me in a fake profile and was telling me that I hated women and that the FBI is looking for me and I've been harassing her family. She was telling me that. She didn't know that. So I'm going to tell you guys this. If you don't listen to me, I have very good insights on people. Right? Very good insights on people. And mark my words right now. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but Sully is not there for the cause. Sully is there for Sully. That's why she wanted to charge $2.99 a minute. She wants her name on stuff. It's popular Sully. That's what she wants. Big old true crimer. She wants to be there if you guys who have been working on this case for years get what you want and get her exonerated. Sully be the first one to say, I told you I was there. And she ain't done shit. She's a fucking idiot. I think she's on some kind of drug. And I've been wrong before. But in the end, if you keep Sully around you, it's going to bite you in the ass for Darlie's support. And sure, because she's dumb. She's dumb and she's a liar. She's a liar. I mean, I don't know what to think of Danelle putting that big ass post on her about me harassing her family when she knows I wasn't. But if you want to do that, that's the best way to get me to shut up, right? Make up all these lies. Tell your whole family that. Dana up under there, do you need my help? Brooklyn up under there, hey, you don't want to see my bad side. I read all them comments. Right? And I've never harassed Danelle. And I asked her, I said, what do you mean by this harassment? She goes, well, you're making videos. I have a right to fucking make videos. I don't make the videos and then drive it over to your house and slam it down in front of your face, do I? No. I make the videos and you click on them. You watch them. And down, well, you're making videos. I can make videos you're out here every day saying this killer is innocent. I got every right to do that. But at any rate, the live is supposed to be set for Sunday, 12 p.m. I just want to make this perfectly clear to the people on my side. You'll be welcome in the chat, but I want to do this a certain way. You come in there and you can speak, but I do not want anybody insulting Rich or Kathy. You can be sarcastic with your answers, if you want to. Well, that's stupid or something like that. But I don't want anybody insulting Rich or Kathy. I don't want that to happen. And if it does happen, it's getting removed. It's getting removed, so you're wasting your time if you're typing that in. I'm not going to ban you or stop talking to you if you do that. But if you say something rude about them, I'm going to remove it. And if you do it again, I'm just going to block you from that chat. Only out of respect for them wanting to do this. I have to keep you guys in check. I know there's a lot of people have a lot to say. Now, when the live is up, during the chat, I don't want anybody to be talking about them too much, but my comment sections will be staying open. I'm confident in my comment section. People do come in there and give me shit. I've got time. My comment section stays open. I'm not Free Darlie and I'm not Rich Prater. If you got something to say, you can say it and I can handle it in the comment section. If I don't like it, I have the choice of removing it or cussing you out or arguing with you. I've got the choice. I'm the creator. So anyway, Sunday, Hey, Kathy, I caught something. You were talking to Rich and you referred to me as the creator. You said that creator wouldn't understand it because he's male about the sex toys. No, my name is Brian. Brian wouldn't understand it, but I do understand it. I do understand that she needed those things. And just a quick reminder, okay, because I'm not down for the fake private investigation shit. I'm not down for someone who's pretending to be a licensed private investigator. And I have reported Sully. If you think I'm fucking kidding, keep doing it. I reported Sully, and the word that I got was, well, in order for us to have a solid case, she has to accept money as a private investigator for a case. So she's got to accept money. That's what DPS told me. That's what they're waiting on. They know who she is. They can't go knock on her door or nothing like that. But if they see that she's accepted money on the basis of being a fake private investigator, that's a felony. So Sola, here's a word to you. Let me lean in real close. If I find out that you're investigating cases, let's close, and that you're taking money before or after, if I find out you did that, I will call the police and I will push it until they arrest your dumb ass. Because remember solely what you told me back in the get go, what you told me? You said, I'm going to publicly embarrass you. What you said. I think you're publicly embarrassing yourself. And you got one of the main supporters of Darlie Routier on social media that doesn't like your lying ass. That family will see. They'll see. I hope Danelle. I think Danelle is smart enough and she can figure out what you're about because Danelle is not stupid by any means at all. But you two, no. You don't give a fuck about Devin, David, or Darling. You want your name on shit. You want some money in your pocket for this one. You want to gloat about things that other people have worked on for years. So you can run around and say all this shit you want about me and Rich. And I wish all of us could get along the way we do. I like Rich. If he wants to come to Ohio, I would go hang out with him. Like I said, we were supposed to meet in Texas, but he got to where he wasn't answering our calls, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to push it. I thought he was busy, actually, or the plan was to meet him at the grave site with Basha. He would have got to meet Basha, and they could have went from there. Basha's not really in it. She was at first. I said, well, I can hook you up with a guy that will be willing to come get you every now and then and take you to the gravesite. And at first she said yes to it. I said, well, he thinks she's innocent. And then she said no. And then she said yes again. She yes, no, yes. I wish I could hook Rich up with Basha because of the time and stuff the time and effort that he's put in this case. He gets to me. He should get to meet her. He can make his own decisions on what he thinks after that. But she is the sweetest thing. She is just so sweet. But at any rate, Soul, you keep fucking around. Fuck around, find out. All it takes is a couple phone calls to find out if you are taking money on any case that you're allegedly investigating. You need to cut that shit out. You're not a fucking private investigator. Danelle, you ought to be ashamed of yourself too for introducing Rich as a private investigator. He's not a private investigator. He's a self-taught web sleuth, true crimer. That's exactly what he is. But you can't put out these false narratives. And hopefully we clear up a lot of shit here Sunday. Peace and chicken grease, y'all. See you Sunday.